It is hallowed by our presence together. And I can't think of better words to motivate us to turn to our neighbors in this time and silently look at your neighbor with a nod and a smile and honor him or her. Good morning to you all. As always, everyone is welcome, especially this morning. We have visitors. You are welcome. You are welcome to stay after the service to enjoy coffee and treats and to get to know one another and for us to get to know you. We have some announcements. In fact, there are a lot of announcements this morning, and I hope you've been following them on the screen. I have a number of announcements here. If you are interested in any of these activities, please call the office for details. On Saturday, October 28th, there will be a celebration of life for Susan River Freeman, who's been a member of this church for a very long time. And that will be at 3 o'clock. And if you would get details on where and when, there is going to be food served, so we need to know how many are planning on coming. Also, if you would like to join a number of our family here on Thanksgiving, we need, again, a head count. So if you would call the office and get details on how you would come and share a nice Thanksgiving meal with many of the people here. Also, check your newsletter as of Friday for opportunities to becoming part of this UUTC family. This Thursday, October 26th, at 7 o'clock to 8:30, at the Lutheran Church of the Good Shepherd, there will be a program called Understanding Trauma, The Path to Healing. Please come and join us. The moderator will be our own Jim Hardy. This is sponsored by the CARE Coalition and Lutheran Church of the Good Shepherd. So you will see these notices around. It was just shown up on the screen. And I just trust that you will all find great benefit in attending this. We will now move into, with Kevin's help, the sharing of our joys and sorrows. Anyone who wishes to have a candle lit and is willing to briefly share what is on your heart this morning, please raise your hand, and I will ask you to speak up loudly, because having been an usher many times, when I'm sitting in the back, I can't hear when someone up front speaks. So would you please speak loudly and tell us your joy and sorrow. Kevin will light a candle for you. I will start with Reverend Bob is asked to have a candle lit for Kelly Alwyn and family, as Kelly is tending to her younger sister in Pennsylvania. Kelly's sister is undergoing treatment for cancer and is a single mom, so Kelly is helping with her daughter as well. Thank you, Kevin. And I have another candle of sorrow. A number of people who have asked me to please light a candle of sorrow for all who have requested a candle for those affected by the atrocities of war across this world. May there please come peace. Hands? Another hand?
I just wanted to light a candle of joy. My sister Jocelyn has come from Rhode Island, and my daughter Christina is sleeping in. And we're having a lot of fun enjoying the forest.
Oh, I bet you are. Thank you. Welcome. Anyone else? Somebody over here.
I'm Elizabeth. This Thursday would have been the 9th anniversary of Susan River getting married right there, along with many of you here. Raise your hand if you're here when we got married, first legal gay marriage in this congregation. Woohoo!
Reverend Bob.
A candle of joy. Christy and I are heading up to Ohio later this week for our son's marriage to a wonderful woman, Lydia. So Justin and Lydia's marriage.
Oh. Congratulations. Anyone else?
A candle of joy to help Luke Powers with his stress of applying for colleges. It's turning out to be very stressful. And
Anyone else? Well, for all the joys and the sorrows that have been brought before us this morning, may we hold them in our hearts. Thank you. Thank you, Kim. I should add one more joy for me this morning. As I said, I'll be sharing this space with Reverend Phillip Thomason, and you will be hearing from him, and he is such a joy to have. He is part of our congregation. I have been joyously awaiting hearing Judith Moore, accompanied by Carlene Reagan, to sing Sometimes I Feel Like a Motherless Child, a Negro Spiritual by Burley.
Thank you, Alice. I appreciate the opportunity to share my voice in this time when there is so much challenge. Oof, Judith, come on. And just thank you. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child, a long way from home, a long way from home, a long way from home, a long way from home. Sometimes I feel like I'm almost gone. Sometimes I feel like I'm almost gone. Sometimes I feel like I'm almost gone. A long way from home. 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 Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. Sometimes I feel Sometimes I feel like a motherless child, a long way from home, a long way from home, a long way from home, a long way from home.
I'm not real good when it comes to standing behind a pulpit, so let's try it this way. I invite you to hear these words. A lot can be said for what we say. Words are singularly the most powerful force available to all humanity. Words have energy. Words have power, with the ability to help, to heal, to hurt, to harm, to humiliate, and to humble. The words we choose and how we use them can build others up or tear them down, bring the community together or rip it apart. The greatest mistake we can make is believing our words have no value in other people's lives. Have you ever had a conversation with someone and for whatever reason can still remember it practically word for word years down the road? Now consider a similar conversation in someone else's life. Your words could be the ones that they have in their head many years down the road. The words we choose mean something. Whether that meaning is positive or negative, it's entirely up to you. If you want to make an impact in the world, try starting with the daily words you choose. How do you talk to others, to yourself, to people that others might see in power over you, or people that you might see as inferior to you? How do you talk to those people? When we recognize the value of our words, we have to take the first step in bettering the community, whatever that community may be in which we live. In contrast, think of the child whose teacher tells him how much she believes in him. Even a simple comment can forever make an impact, either uplifting or defeating. Whatever that child hears probably will happen. To live an altruistic life is to recognize our words aren't just for today. They're for every day, tomorrow, and the day after. What you say now can be remembered for years to come. So choose your words wisely. The words you choose in your life have meaning. They are remembered. They can make a difference. When we recognize the power of our words, we can harness the power to be a force for good in this community, in our lives, and in the world around us. I'd like to invite you now to stand and join with us on our opening hymn, number 352 in your hymnal, and then I think it will be on the screen. So if you're able, please stand.
Here today, in this place and with these people, may we listen so that we can hear, and may we know so that we can change ourselves and this world. May this chalice light our way. Now we welcome Kevin back. We have missed him.
Good morning. My name's Kevin, and it's my joy to be able to work with the kids here at UUTC. And today we're going to have the story called Amelia and Her Super Magical Powers. And this was written by Gail Sfar. Well, Amelia was a girl who loved superpowers. She loved watching cartoons, she loved Wonder Woman, she loved Harry Potter, and she really wanted superpowers for herself. But her thought was that if she had superpowers, she could fix things that she saw that needed to be fixed in the world. Such as there was a boy at her school who often sat alone and looked sad at lunchtime. Or she saw a bigger, older kid picking on younger kids on the playground. Or walking home from school, there was a park that had kind of just fallen into disrepair. It needed to be cleaned up. It needed to be made looking new and happy again. And so she thought and she wished about her superpowers that she wanted so badly. Well, one night, Amelia was about to fall asleep, and her fairy godmother showed up, as all fairy godmothers do. And fairy godmother said, "Amelia, I've heard you wishing and wishing for superpowers. I wanted to tell you that I would like to give some to you," but Amelia said, "Oh, great, I want those superpowers, thanks so much," and she went to sleep. Well, the next morning, Amelia woke up and said, "I remember my fairy godmother was here to give me superpowers. I'm so excited to try and use them today." But she got up and she said, "I remember there's usually some way of using your superpowers, sort of like Spider-Man does this to shoot a web, or Harry Potter does something with a wand, or there must be some way to use it, but maybe I'll figure it out as I go along." So she went to school, and at lunch, she saw that little boy sitting by himself alone at lunchtime, and so she kind of did some stuff like this, a little ways away from him in the lunchroom. Nothing seemed to happen. So she got a little closer, and she did stuff like this to see if she could use her superpowers. And the little boy looked up and saw her, he thought, waving at him. So he waved back. So she said, "Hi, I'm Amelia." And he got a big smile, and he said, "Hi, I'm Bobby." And they started talking a little bit, and she found out that he had recently moved to school, but he didn't have any friends there yet. It was just him and his mom in town. And so she said, "Well, why don't you come and sit with me and my friends?" And Bobby got the biggest smile, got up and walked over with her. And she went, "Wow, I really do have superpowers." So later that day at school, when they were at the playground, Amelia saw an older kid picking on some younger kids. And she said, "Bobby, come on with me." And they walked up and they said, "Danny, you stop picking on those younger kids. And Dobie and Lou, why don't y'all come with me and my friends, and y'all stick with us and play with us, and if you're bothered by that bully again, then you tell me, and we'll go take it to the principal." So those kids went on with Amelia, and they all played together, and they weren't bothered by that bully again. And on the way home from school that day, those kids were walking together, and they all passed the old park. And Amelia said, "We could fix up this park. Why don't we go and we'll all ask our parents so we can get together on the weekend. We can all come together and fix up this park together." So they all went and talked with their parents. Parents agreed that'd be a good idea. And that Saturday, they all met and they started cleaning up the trash and clicking down old branches and raking up leaves. And after that, it was looking so good, they all hung out together and had a picnic together and enjoyed their new park. And after all this, Amelia was feeling just bush. She was wiped out. So she got ready for bed, and she's lying in her bed, about ready to fall asleep, when her godmother, fairy godmother, showed up again. And Amelia said, "Oh, thanks so much for those superpowers. They worked so well. I helped Bobby because he was feeling sad and alone, and now he has friends. And I helped those kids in the schoolyard who are being bullied, and our neighbors and our parents all got together and we cleaned up the park. These superpowers really work." But the fairy godmother said, "Well, I didn't get a chance to tell you the other night that my magic wand's a little broken right now, and you went to sleep before you could know that I couldn't give you any superpowers. But what you did, Amelia, was in you all the time. It was just the power of words." And so let's remember, if we want to do magic in this world, we've got the power within us, and we can do that magic to make it a better place. And now KT will come up to light our children's chalice, and then we'll sing them out.
Had you asked me as a child what the money was used for that went into the collection plate every Sunday morning when I was at church, I would have probably said it was used to pay the minister, in my case the priest, for coming and working at our church that morning. After all, I figured, priests and ministers only work one day a week. And that would be on Sunday. I knew that they only had 2 jobs. One was to take care of sick people, and the other one was to work in a church somewhere on Sunday. Of course, now I know ministers work very hard, and they work very long hours. I also know that it is not just salaries that must be honored, but all the necessities that make a building a home. And I can tell you with certainty that if it were not for your generosity and those before you, there would be no UUTC. Also, I want to remind you there are 2 things that our ushers love to do. One is to count people. We do that every week to keep attendance. And secondly, they love to count money. So ushers, please come forward, and they're going to help you make their day. Reverend Phillip Thomason and his husband Rick are members of this congregation and friends to all. Phillip serves on the UUTC Board of Directors as the president-elect. He says of himself, Phillip is a fellow traveler with each of us as we make our way through this big, beautiful world of ours, sometimes finding the miraculous, sometimes the funny, and sometimes the hurt. But through it all, we journey together, helping each other along the way. May I present and welcome Reverend, my friend Phillip, by any other name.
I don't think I've ever done this as a member here before, so I've always been able to slip in, and after it's over, whether it's good or bad, slip out. I don't think I'll ever be able to do that again. It's a different feeling, isn't it, Reverend Bob? Well, I'm just an anxious person. Anxious because of what I hear in the world today. Anxious because of the deaths and the annihilation that's going on in the Middle East. And every day it seems to get worse instead of looking maybe a little bit better. I choose not to look at the television in the morning much anymore because I don't want to see babies that have been killed. I don't want to see mamas and daddies looking for their children in the midst of all this rubble. But I also don't want to see mamas and daddies trying to find their children who were just having fun at a music venue. So you're caught. You don't really know. You don't really know what's making you anxious anymore. As a boy, I used to be rather anxious. And that was a long time ago. I'm 73 now, so that was a long time ago that I was a boy. But I can still remember those times. I grew up in the Appalachian Mountains to a very, very poor family. A poor family, but a family that loved each other. And a mother who especially took care of this brood of 5 kids with little or nothing to do or to have to make the world a better place in which to be other than her love. It was as simple as that. We didn't have a lot of food. Rick and I will go to where I grew up sometimes, and we will spend hours riding around this little community, and I'm showing him different houses that I lived in when I grew up. I lived here on this time, and we moved at the end of the month because the rent was due. We lived here for 2 months. I don't know where that money came from, but we had I bet you there are 10, 15 different houses in this community that I grew up in. I was an anxious kid, not knowing what tomorrow would bring, not knowing if I would be able to have a place to lay my head. but I always knew somebody loved me. I went to a place for elementary school that I believe that this power in my life preordained me to go. There was a lady there, my first grade teacher, by the name of Miss Margaret Brockman. Good lady. And next door to her was Miss Margaret Bryant. And they lived together for many, 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 many years. I'll tell you more about that in a minute. I had no money. I don't know how kids got milk, but somehow milk would appear on my desk. You remember when you bought a little carton of milk for 3 pennies, 2 pennies? Maybe I'm really telling you how old I am now. And if you wanted chocolate milk, it was 4 pennies. We didn't have 3 pennies. We didn't have 4 pennies. But I want to tell you, every day, there was some woman who saw me and saw how anxious I was as a child, who miraculously found what on my desk every day? A carton of milk. And sometimes it was even a carton of chocolate milk. We used to have to line up and go to her desk, and we would stand there and she would look you over and give you her sense of approval that day. And the question she always asked is, do you have a clean handkerchief? That was important then. Me having a handkerchief was a miracle, but having something clean like that was even more of a miracle. And I would say, no, ma'am, because the only person that ever got to lead the cleanliness train had to check 5 different things. You brushed your teeth, you had a clean handkerchief, da-da-da-da. So my anxiety came as a first grader in knowing that I would never be able to lead that train because I didn't have these things. And she would say to me, come here, Phillip. And she would come up to me and she would just do this and put, you know what, in my pocket? A clean handkerchief. I felt so proud to lead that train around that room. Must have been proud because, like I said, 73 years later, and I still remember it. She took that anxiety that I had, that I'm feeling a little bit of right now in the world that I'm living in, and made it easier. Now, let me tell you a little side note about Miss Brockman and Miss Bryant. Rick and I were going to Florida one time. We decided to drive, which was a mistake. All the way down the expressways, anywhere you drove in Florida, at that time it was one anti-abortion billboard right after the other. So I decided to get on my phone and start Googling people. Just Google. And I thought, maybe I could Google Miss Bryant and Miss Brockman. And I Googled Miss Brockman, and it came up that she had gone on to become the principal of this school, and that she had died and was buried in Marion, Virginia, again in the Appalachian Mountains. And she was left, the people that were left were her close friend and confidant, Miss Margaret Bryant. And then I thought, I'm an adult. I'm a gay man. I never knew that woman was in any way gay. Did she know about me in the first grade? Well, then I went on to read about Miss Bryant. You know, she was Miss Margaret Brockman's closest confidant and special friend. They were buried next to each other in Marion, Virginia. They were participants in all of these social programs that I would have been interested in. They built for Habitat for Humanity. They hiked. They did all of these things. So you know what? My anxiety level when I read that about Miss Brockman and Miss Bryant, even though I was seeing all of these horrible billboards, just drifted away from me. Because I knew somebody in the first grade knew me and loved me because of who I was. That's what I tend to think. May not be right, but that's what I wanted to think. And that's still what I want to think today. As a little boy, I used to hide under the kitchen sink. Go under the sink, big sink. And I'd sit there for hours. My mama would come in and open the door up and say, "Are you hungry?" And she'd give me some food. There was something that reduced the anxiety about being able just to sit and not hear all these words going on around me. Then I moved on to third grade, and I was fearful. I was fearful of this woman, so afraid of her that I never thought that I would even go any further than the third grade, that it would stop at that point. She used words that could take a child and cut them off at their knees and made them realize that they were less than what they really were. By that time, we had moved to Homestead, Florida. My daddy saw it as the land of milk and honey. He loaded us all up in a car, an old beat-up car. We took off down through the highway, through Orlando and the orange grove after orange grove after orange grove. And we would stop during the night, and he would hand us a little bag, and he'd say, "Y'all go pick some oranges." And my mama would say, "That's teaching them to steal." And he would say, "Helen, do you really think that they're going to miss 8 oranges?" Now let's just think about this. So we go on down there. We spent one night in Miami, fearful, anxiety-ridden child, in a hotel. And the only good thing that I can remember coming out of it that night was the words of them talking, "Okay, we're here, now what?" And I heard, "I think we're going back to the Appalachian Mountains." But before we did, my sisters and I were in this bed in this motel room. Never knew what air conditioning was. The air conditioner came on. You had to drop a quarter in it to cause it to work. But even more so than that, we're laying there just about to go to sleep. This anxiety-ridden little feller, and I heard this king, king, and all of a sudden the bed started going. And I thought, that just relieved that anxiety. So we're going home. Let's go back. But we didn't. We stayed there for 4 years. And if it had not been for the Mennonite community, I guess we would have starved. Because they loved us and cared for us and brought food to our home. My dad worked hard, but he just couldn't make it. But I was so fearful of this third grade teacher, and I shall name her Miss Ura Todd, because she just made me seem like I was less than the words that she would use for kids who had more. And I think this was my plight in life, never to lead a train around the room. First grade, I got to do it some. Third grade, I never got to do it because she didn't like me. She didn't like me because I was not the kind of kid that fit into her thinking of what life should be. I lived on the wrong side of the tracks. The Mennonites fed us. My daddy trimmed trees. We lived in a house that had no furniture. We had a box to play with, which was pretty fun. And at Christmas, I'd get a bike. 10 days later, my sister would get a bike. And 10 days later, my other sister would get a bike. I don't still understand that, but it happened. But she just made me fearful about who I was as a person. She was mean. If you can use the word mean for a human being, she was mean. I didn't have anywhere to hide, anywhere to go. But then one day my dad came in and he said, "We're moving back." So we loaded up this old car again. No money other than to put gas in it. Moved back up to the Appalachian Mountains. And it truly was the beginning of a change in my life that caused me to understand that not all people could be Miss Brockmans. But we certainly could hesitate from ever being a Miss Uratod. For a moment, think of your words and how you've used them this week. Have you used them to hurt somebody? Have you used them to make fun of somebody? Have you used them to show somebody you love them? Have you used them to make a difference in the community that we're living in? Have you used them to show somebody that they are important to you? I'm a pretty plain person. Like right now, I think I could sit right here under this table and just be happy with you. Life doesn't have to be all the goodies that come with it. Rick and I moved from Atlanta going on 11 years ago. We decided we were coming to Brevard. We started moving stuff to Brevard. We had not sold our houses because at that time we had a house in Atlanta and a house in the mountains. We sold them all. We said, we're moving to Brevard. Well, no. We got here and saw what it cost to live in downtown Brevard, and we thought we've moved to the wrong place. But we found this little house that needed a lot of work. And we had sold everything we owned, and we had the money to buy it, and we bought it. Paid for it. But it still had 10 years worth of cats living in it. It had carpet from 40 years ago. And he took it all and made it better. New floors, new ceilings, new this, new that. I still live with anxiety. I still live from fear. Probably the reason I don't watch as much as I should be watching, because it's fearful. But you know, I also live in this word called hope. There's got to be some hope. If it's not, we're all in this together and it's not doing anything. But as my mama used to say to us, honey, boy, you are circling the drain. Which meant you better straighten up or she was coming to get you. Don't you sometimes think that we're all just in this circling the drain, hearing all of these people tell us what we need to do and what we shouldn't do and what we should do and what we can read and what we can't read, what our children can learn, what our children can't learn, what the school board can say, what they can't say, what parents can do, what parents can't do. I just become crazy with it sometimes. And then I think of Maya Angelou. She gives me hope. To paraphrase Maya Angelou, she said, and I'd love to be able to use her voice. She said, words are, let's just face it, they get into your carpets. They get into your clothes. They get into your chairs that you sit in. And before you know it, those words have either caused great happiness in your life, or those words have caused great pain in your life and in the lives of others. Can't you just hear Maya Angelou saying, they get in your carpets. That's the way she would have said it, in your carpets. That gives me hope. Gives me hope that maybe, just maybe, you and I can make a difference in this world. Whether you're anxiety-filled, that I am sometimes, whether you're fearful of certain things, or whether you just have hope, just pure old hope that things have to somehow get better. I have hope every day that a new Speaker of the House will be elected. Every day I get up and say, that Speaker will be elected today. And then by 11 o'clock I'm thought, oh no, not another day. We got to do something. We've got this coming on us. We've got this coming. We've got to do something, and it needs to be more than a fourth grade class of the kid running for the presidency of that class. But through it all, there's some hope. Have you experienced hope lately in your own life? I think most of us have. Have you experienced anxiety in your life? See, when I say that word, I feel it. Have you experienced fear in your life? Not from 40, 50, 60 years ago, but from today, have you experienced that? Anxiety, fear. And then if you go on the way over here, you just might experience what that hope is all about. I had a woman when I was in the 7th grade by the name of Marie McDavid. Lived down the street from me. First gift she ever gave me was a dictionary. I don't need a dictionary. The second thing she ever gave to me was $300 to help me go to college. Because I never dreamed, I never hoped. I always assumed I would be something less. And then one of the things she gave to me was you can go to college if you want to go. And I thought, maybe I can. Maybe I can go to DeKalb Tech. And there's nothing wrong with going to DeKalb Tech or anywhere else. She said, my goal for you is for you to go to Emory University. I thought, it'll never happen. And before I knew it, I had signed the papers, and I got a full ride for 4 years through the people that own Coca-Cola. And if it hadn't have been for Miss McDavid saying to me, you can do it, and I gave you a dictionary to prove it. Don't live in anxiety all your life. It's going to happen. I'm telling you, it's going to happen. But don't live in it. Don't live in fear all your life. It's going to happen. There will be moments that you will be fearful. But don't let it become the main part of your life. Just try to understand that hope is something that we have to grasp at sometimes. Hope's like one of those balloons filled with helium that's going up, and you got to grab it sometimes to make you and yours and those around you and this church and the community in which we live be a better place. So words make a difference. Words that are good, words that are bad. Words make a difference in what you say to the person that you say it to. They will be remembered long after you forget them. Rick and I were in Atlanta not long ago, and we drove to where Miss McDavid is buried. She's buried in a beautiful cemetery in Atlanta. Used to be where the mayors, and it's in a pretty bad section now. But we drove all through there, and I thought, I'll never find this. There's just too many. And we turned the corner, and there it was. I said, that gives me hope that something in this world's going to give. Because she gave me hope in a world that I didn't believe would ever give. Go in peace, my friends. I'm supposed to do something. And I can't remember. Do you all know that feeling that you can't remember what you're supposed to do? I'm supposed to say to you, I invite you to sing our final hymn this morning. Number 52 in your hymnal. It will be on the screen. In the sweet fields of autumn. Won't you stand if you are able and sing with us, please? I was a chaplain in the hospital in Atlanta for children, a children's hospice at Emory University. You know what I wanted more than anything in life? I wanted a magic bag that I could carry with me, and that I could go into this bag and pull out whatever I needed to pull out, Kevin, and just go poof. Everything's going to be okay. You know what? I didn't have that bag. Some of those kids were not okay. But what I say to you today is find what you have that is good and use it for the betterment of this world. Somehow, some way, sometime. It doesn't have to be a magical bag, even though I still think of that these many years later. But just go in the peace and the joy and the love and the caring and the quality of this world, even though right now we don't see much quality. And know that you are that person that can make a difference.